Thanks for clicking on the video. My name's Tom Alsop, and today I'm going to show you how to turn your slice backhand into more of a weapon. It's important to understand that your opponents can't be any better at hitting the ball than they are at receiving the ball. Your sending skills can't be any better than your receiving skills. So when I'm hitting them a ball, I don't want to give them the same spin every time, the same speed. I want some balls to be spinning backwards, some balls to have top spin and to be spinning forwards, and to challenge their ability to anticipate how that ball is going to be bouncing. Now, there are a few different things I look to do when I'm hitting a slice that I just can't do or can't achieve when I'm hitting a topspin. I can use all of the court. I can land balls short either with short shots or drop shots. I can't do that with a topspin. You can't land your topspin ball short. Your opponent's just going to take control of the point. Maybe if you hit an angle, you can class that as a short ball. But aside from that, you really can't use the service boxes, right? So I can bring people to the net, can make them run forwards, can hit winners with drop shots, can make people respect the fact that they have to defend the front bit of the court, which opens up the back of the court. So I can't have people, they don't want to camp out way behind the baseline because at any time I could throw in a drop shot. I like the ball here in my strike zone. I don't really like the ball around my shoulders. So if a ball gets a little bit higher, I can slice this ball, or I can slice this ball. It's the same thing. What's going to happen is the ball comes back lower. So whether it's a low ball and I slice it, or whether I take a high ball and I slice it, their next shot usually comes back a little bit lower than if I was to hit a topspin high and deep. If I do a topspin high and deep, usually that ball comes back with a little bit of height. Now I've got to play a shot around my shoulders. So I slice balls so that the next ball is in my strike zone. So when it comes to technique, usually beginners, people who aren't familiar with the slice, usually have their hand behind the racket in somewhat of an Eastern backhand grip. So rather than a continental where my hand is right on top of the racket and my arm is in a straight line here, this is the grip that I would use, that Roger Federer would use. I like to group me and Roger Federer together whenever I can. But this is the advanced grip. When you're using an Eastern grip, it will be a little bit easier to just get that ball out in front and just make sure you're making a clean connection with it. The problem with this is you're going to be a little bit limited in what you can do. So if the ball comes to the side and you want to slice it cross court, which is a very useful shot, your wrist is going to be kind of locked out of that position. It's going to be very difficult to maneuver the wrist like I could with a continental grip to slice that ball cross court. Well, for a lot of shots, you might find that you can hit a pretty solid slice backhand here, put a little bit of backspin on it, but yeah, you'll be somewhat limited. And you also won't be able to get the kind of power that you can with a continental grip, because this is going to turn into more of a throw-in action slash chopping action, whereas with this grip it becomes a bit more of a bunt. So I don't think there's anything wrong with using an Eastern backhand grip. You can get a little bit of slice on it, but certainly as you progress, you want to start using a continental grip because it's going to allow you to do far more things. You're going to be able to hit different spins, use your wrist a little bit, and you're going to be able to accelerate the racket head, sort of throw your arm at that ball and generate more power. If you do that with an Eastern grip, you tend to come across it and hit a lot of side spin. So the continental grip, we're going to be right on top of the racket. You can see how my arm is in line with the racket here. All right, so we're not behind it like this, we're right on top, and that's going to be a great grip for hitting a slice. Now the beauty of this grip is it puts my racket face and my forearm in a straight line. They are connected. So for example, if I was to stick something on the face of the racket, it's going to sit on my forearm. And my entire shot is going to be like this, from start to contact to finish. Almost messed that one up, but it's all connected here. Whether I swing up on it, whether I swing down on it, everything is connected. And building up that relationship therefore becomes easier because there are no different angles being created. These just stay together. So After using this for a few years, I now can really accelerate and I just know where everything is because it just works as one piece. It can be a little bit confusing as to how the slice works, because if I did this demonstration, a lot of people would think this is the right way to hit a slice, but it's certainly not. It might be the right way to hit a drop shot, where I'm trying to almost spin the ball back over net because my racket is this angle, but when I'm hitting a slice, my racket is almost straight. Maybe it's a couple of degrees open. So you're opening the racket head here and you're finishing with it open, but it actually closes on contact. So most people, when I'm asking them to hit some slices and they're not familiar with this shot, will be hitting way too much spin and that ball will be popping up too much. You're going to step on your foot. The coordination is going to go all the way through, from your foot to your knee, to your hip, to your shoulder. The arm is going to bend from the elbow, and then we're going to release. I don't really always want to think like I'm chopping because I feel like that's more of an abrupt action. So I want to feel like I'm kind of chopping, but also just throwing it out, because I feel like with a throw, it's just like a little bit more relaxed. It tails off, it's a little bit smoother. Whereas, as I said, with a chop, it's kind of a bit abrupt. So working with those two feels, but ultimately you want that coordination of the energy coming through the body and throwing that arm out there. If you're too straight, you're missing out on a very important part of the coordination chain, which is to bend this elbow and release. This is going to give you a lot of power, effortless power. The more you can build up that relationship between the racket, the forearm, and the contact point being right next to your body, the more you can accelerate into this position. So for me, I can get the racket right behind my head here. I can even lag. I sometimes do this a little bit too much, but I'll lag the racket because I can snap it back into this position, knowing that I always get this thing lined up. And obviously, I'm not really recommending that for everyone, but certainly the more you build up this relationship here, where you have the continental grip, the contact points next to you, the arm and the racket are in a straight line, the more you can bend your arm here, open up the racket face, and accelerate in and through that position. We can't be flipping the wrist like this. This is going to put us in a weak position. Keep this relationship between the racket face and the forearm. Keep it all the way into contact. But what's probably more, well, I shouldn't say more, what's just as important is the follow through, keeping that same angle. You can see my arm and my racket are in a straight line here. Now, if I have a low ball, I might swing up like this. If I have a high ball, especially if there's a topspin kicking off the court, I might swing down. You'll see Roger Federer finishing like this a lot. But again, arm and the racket are in a straight line. Everything is connected. Now, when we have this position at the end, we essentially have a good break, because the butt cap of the racket is into the wrist here, or into the heel of the hand, I should say, which stops me from being able to really go much further than this. If I flip the racket, this can now move in all kinds of directions. But if I keep this position, if I keep this angle, I'm pretty restricted in how much my wrist can move. It can move a little bit into this position, and it will do as I release through the shot. But it's a pretty firm, strong position. It's a good break. And in order to really accelerate through that contact point and generate that racket speed, you need a good break. If you're flipping this racket here, you're not going to be able to accelerate. It's like if you don't have good brakes in your car, you can't really go fast without bad things happening. So make sure when you stop, this is in a straight line. Now, either you can think about two things. Either finish with the racket pointing at your opponent. That's a nice position to finish in. Or finish so that your opponent can see the strings. So you don't want it to be flipping this way. So when you see me slice from this angle, you will never see the backside of my racket because my hand is never flipping. And that's going to put my wrist and my hand, the racket, in a strong, stable position, which means I can accelerate and stay pretty strong. It's not going to be out of control. If you don't have that good break, it's going to be like a runaway train. You're not going to have any confidence that you're going to be able to stop it in a controlled way, so you won't be able to accelerate it in a controlled way.